Happy Halloween. This is Fruitcake Tony. Welcome to Show Me Your Pick. Bad Company edition on Halloween. Hope everyone's doing well. We've got a good show lined up for you today. We got the gang all here. Let's bring in first my co-host, the incomparable, the one and the only, the legendary rock journalist, Steve Rosen.
Hey, everybody. Happy Halloween to you guys.
Happy Halloween, Steve. How's it going?
Thanks, Tony. I'm good, man. I'm good. It's
How's your week
hot
been?
out here. Week's been good. It's gotten hot out here again, and it's cooling off a little bit. Now it's hot again today. But, yeah, everything's good. Elections are almost here, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yep.
And, yeah, man, life goes on. So,
Yeah.
cool.
It's gotten much cooler here on the East Coast. We had all the remnants of the Gulf hurricane the past few days, but it cleared out and got really cool. I'm sure it's much cooler. I'm hearing stories from Sandra about snow and stuff up her way. Speaking of Sandra, let's bring in our co-producer here at Show Me Your Pick, the lovely Sandra Pokorney. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Best holiday of the freaking year. I love it. And yes, I live in Wisconsin. We've had snow already.
Nice. Well, not nice.
So how can you trick or treat in the snow? How's that possible?
You just put a jacket on. or you put the thermals on underneath your costume, and then you put your costume on, and then you look like the kid in A Christmas Story that can't move. But it's trick-or-treating.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No snow wanted. No snow wanted. Happy Halloween, Sandra.
Happy Halloween, guys.
Alice.
Yes. Alice Cooper. This is my inspiration. So, yeah. I don't know what year or what era Alice that is, but yes, that's the picture that I used for my makeup. Had the top hat.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's bring in our other guy and find out how the weather is up in New York. The Cigar box maker master himself, Brendan B. Square. There he is.
Hi there. Happy Halloween. Sandra's my inspiration for today.
Nice.
So figured I'd be Sandra. This was what I had on before, So, it's a big stretch Halloween costume. So
nice.
Yeah. There's the candy corn.
Trick or treat, yeah.
Yeah, it snowed here yesterday morning. It's a little, I'm not going to say it's a little early for us, but we've had snow before around Halloween, but this was, before I was ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who all's here today, Sandra?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked. My favorite thing. Okay, so happy Halloween and hello to, all the way up to the top, Joy Bailey, Hitman is in the house, Brun, of course. CK is asking, I think, who Tony's supposed to be. Tony is Izzy Stradlin. Mitch Heyman, Rick Hefner. Thomas Santiago. Hello. Dana, New Jersey's joining us. I think I said Mitch Heyman. Those that are just tuning in, Blackjack Guitar Nut, thank you so much. 12 people watching, 8 thumbs up. Please hit that like.
Welcome, everybody.
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have got a trivia question a little later on.
Hey, Hack, Guitar Hacks in the house.
Hey, Hack.
Music Therapy Les. Lenny Lou and Mary.
Let's show what we're going to give away here today. In honor of Steve's latest interview story up on his channel, the Michael Anthony interview from '86, which is a great interview. Go check it out. Nice to hear Mike speaking about things behind the scenes back then. Yeah, we're gonna give away this Chickenfoot 2009 guitar pick right there a little later. Yep, we are. Let's get back.
They dissolved, right? Chickenfoot dissolved.
I'm
They're
sorry.
not really. Chickenfoot isn't really playing anymore, right? They're not.
I mean, they're like on an extended eternal hiatus.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think if life,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
if life was different, that you know, if they're on the same state or proximity, they probably kick around ideas. But yeah, they're, you know, it was just, you know, impossible for those guys to get together back in the day, and now I imagine it's, you know, impossible for other reasons. So.
True.
Well, it's basically known as the Circle now, minus Joe Satriani. You got the other guy. What's that guy's name, Steve, that plays with Sammy? Oh gosh, it's escaping me right now. Victor. Yep.
Vic Johnson. He was in a band called oh man, he was like in a, and no offense to anybody, he was in an all black kind of a rock band out here in LA called the Bus Boys.
Oh, I remember them.
Yeah.
They were played in they were in what the heck was it? 48 Hours. They were in they did a couple songs in that movie. Yeah.
That's right. I think you're right. Yeah, so Vic's been around for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. Good guitar player.
Yeah, he is.
I think they did a version of The Boys Are Back in Town.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like.
You know more than I do.
That's not possible, Steve. Not possible.
So, Steve, Bad Company, Paul Rogers, and those guys. When did you first meet these guys?
I actually saw them before I met them. Well, we need to go back a little further than that if we're gonna give the whole story here. So, I was always a huge Free fan. I mean, who didn't love All Right Now? And you know, that was a song that every guitar player would learn, even though nobody would ever play it right. You know, those voicings that Paul Kossoff did, nobody ever played it right. And even today, you can look on YouTube, and all these guys who do like the guitar instructions, you know, every one of these guys plays it differently. Anyway, Free opened for Blind Faith at the Forum. This must be, God, when was that Blind Faith record? 68, 69? So that was the first time I saw Free. A little hard to remember them, to be honest. Fast forward a couple, 2, 3, 4 years. I think it was 73, and Free are playing at the Hollywood Palladium, which is a club, not a club, like a small, it used to be like a dance hall, but like you like stand, you know, like on the floor. A lot of bands have played there, down east on Sunset Boulevard. So Free were playing there. So I can remember for some reason, I mean, this is when I first started writing. I think I'd maybe had a couple small stories published. So I remember driving up there with my brother and maybe one of my brother's friends. We went in the afternoon, and I don't know what possessed us to do that. So we're there in the afternoon, and there's nobody there. But the crew is loading out, the trucks, the gear, wheeling in trap cases, bringing in guitar cases and stuff. So there's like a little door, a side door, where all these guys are walking through. So we just kind of, amble over slowly and kind of peek in. There's nobody around. So we just walk in. I mean, the place is empty except for the crew loading in gear. Not loading out, loading in gear. So we're kind of watching, and the gear's getting set up. And they're setting up, Kossoff's Marshalls. And I think Andy Frazier, the bass player for Free, also played through Marshalls. And they've got Simon Kirk's drum set up. And the band comes out and does a sound check. And there's literally the three of us. And again, the crew are in the hall, I guess it is. And they run through, I think, about 2 or 3 songs. I think they did My Brother Jake, which was on an album, Free at Last. I think it would just come out. And they did 1 or 2 others, and they were just astonishingly good. They were so great. Kossoff was just so unbelievable. And so they get done, and so we kind of leave. We go to have dinner, and so we come back a few hours later, and I forget who was opening. I think there were a couple bands. Oh, man. It was somebody like Commander Cody, or I simply cannot remember. So the first, and I think we're 2 opening bands do their thing, and the announcer announces, and now Free, and Paul Rogers, Simon Kirk, and Andy Frazier walk out, and Paul says something like, "Oh, we're sorry, Paul wasn't feeling good, so we're going to try to get through the set with the 3 of us." Paul was a keyboard player, so they had brought out a keyboard, which they may have set up when we saw them rehearse, because some of those songs are built around, keyboards and guitar. And I think they did My Brother Jake, and I think that's about it. And they said, "Listen, we can't do this, or that's all we can do." And they walk off. And apparently, Paul, had gotten, maybe been drinking too much. He was doing drugs at the time. And that was a horrible shame. I mean, my brother and his friend, we got to see an amazing 2 or 3 songs at the sound check. But, we were really looking forward to seeing the whole show. And the rest of the crowd, I mean, they didn't see anything, with Kossoff. So that was pretty horrible. So we fast forward again. I think this is like 1973, 74. So I'm at the beginning of my writing career. It's 1976. Koss has left or been kicked out of Free. Puts together Backstreet Crawler, and I called guitar player. I said, "Listen, I've got to interview Paul Kossoff." So I go and interview Koss, and he was amazing. He had his guitar there. He says, "Hey, you want to play my guitar?" So he hands me his Les Paul, and I'm playing his Les Paul. So I'm asking him, "Man, you got to show me how to play All Right Now," and he plays it. I'm still confused as to how it's played, but he was amazing. And I'll backtrack to Bad Company in 1 second, but I want to get through the Free stories here. So many more years pass, and I end up writing a book on free and bad company, and that's the
Nice.
book. Hopefully that's
Yep, free at last. Cool.
free at last,
Nice.
free at last. Hopefully that's um, in focus. And this is another book. This guy put together this unbelievable book, big hardcover, J.B. James on costs. And in it, he
Oh wow.
talked about that story in Guitar Player that I just mentioned. That story in Guitar Player was edited way down. Koss actually talked for quite a bit. And I think I edited it down. I may have cut out about half. Well, they found some person, and I don't know how they got a hold of my cassette. Maybe I sent it to them because I realized what hardcore free and Kossoff junkies they were. I sent them the original cassette, and this guy, and I know this is hard to see, but this guy went through and transcribed, the entire
That's cool.
cassette, which turned out to be, I don't know, man, it was thousands and thousands of words, and there's a bit more there.
That's awesome.
And I always thought that was so cool. I mean, they had such respect for that story that they would do that, you know. And this is another book. David Clayton and Todd K. Smith, these guys had the, I think it was called the Free Appreciation Society. These guys were hardcore free guys. And they give me a thank you in the book. And I think they've excerpted some of my, that Guitar Player story as well. So that was kind of the history of Koss and I. Excuse me. It was only a few months after I did that interview with Koss, which I believe was, I don't know, May or June of '76. He passed away only a few days later. I'm sorry, a few months later. In starting to work on that book, on my book, Free at Last, I interviewed a bunch of people that, you know, Koss had played with, you know, and obviously Paul Rogers and Simon, you know, guys from Backstreet Crawler. And I actually interviewed his longtime girlfriend, Sandy, spelled Sandhe, Sandy. I can't remember Sandy's last name, but we had several conversations. She insisted that Koss actually saw the issue before he passed away. It's possible because I know the issue. You know, by the time I did the interview and the time it, you know, went to Guitar Player and the time it got published, there's a lapse time. She said that he saw the story and that he was blown away by it, that he was in Guitar Player magazine. I hope he saw it. That would be so great if he did see it, because he was one of the all-time great guitar players. I was hanging out with Andy Johns for a while. I'm skipping around here. Andy Johns produced some of those early free records. He produced, oh my God, he engineered Zeppelin stuff and Stones. I mean, he was one of those, you know, English guys. And he told me of all the guitar players he'd ever worked with, and he worked on a Van Halen record. He said of all the guitar players he'd ever worked with, Paul Kossoff had the greatest finger vibrato he'd ever heard. And he'd always tell guitar players, listen to Kossoff's finger vibrato if you want to hear something truly, you know, amazing. So, so that was, those are my Koss and free and Backstreet Crawler stories. Special band, special guitar player. So,
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Oh, hi.
Wow.
When
Busy.
did you first interview those guys, Steve?
I first interviewed, I interviewed Paul Rogers and Simon when they were at Bad Company. So I never interviewed any of those guys during the free days. It was always, it was right after that, you know, with Bad Company. So it's '74, and I had been trying to get a story in Rolling Stone. And Judy Sims was the editor out here in LA. And I used to go by the office, and I just hang out. And they had all the issues up in the walls, and I'm looking at the covers and I'm thinking, oh my God, man, to be in Rolling Stone, that's, you've arrived as a journalist if you were Rolling Stone. So I would, talk to Judy and I would pitch her ideas, and, she would very politely, and she was very cool. No, I don't think that's going to work. That's not going to work. So when I heard that Paul Rodgers was putting a new band together, the band was called Bad Company, and he had Simon, from Free, and Boz Burrell from King Crimson, and Mick Ralphs from Martha Hoople. I thought, well, I knew. I said, this band is going to be amazing. Kossoff is an unbelievable songwriter. He's one of the greatest singers on the planet. I know this record is going to be amazing. So I started pitching Bad Company to Rolling Stone before the record was even released. And somehow I talked them into it, which was, unheard of, because they would never commit to a story, sight unseen before they'd heard the record. And I told them, I said, this band is going to be huge. This first record will be unbelievable. And I just knew it would be. And I can remember getting the white label copy. Before a regular copy would come out, they would send out press copies to the press, and they were a white label. And the cover was all white. So before there were graphics on the cover, or any of those graphics that we see in the first Bad Company record, or before there any label was pressed on the little round circle on the album, they were white label pressing. And I remember putting it on, and I can't remember the running order. Maybe Can't Get Enough was the first song, and I heard it and I thought this is it. They're going to be bigger than I thought. This band is going to be huge. They were touring around that time on their first American tour, and they were going to be out here in LA. They weren't playing in LA. They were playing in San Bernardino. It was about a 60 or 70 mile ride outside of LA. So I got Rolling Stone to bite, so they said yes. So I called the publicist. Swan Song was being distributed by, Atlantic? Cannot remember. Anyway, I called and I said, listen, I'm doing a story for Rolling Stone, a Bad Company. I want to interview the band. And they said, yeah, absolutely. So the band was staying at the Hyatt House, the famous Hyatt House where everybody stayed. And I remember driving there, man, and I walk into the room and, Paul Rodgers is there. And remember, he was wearing like this Cub Scout, like his Cub Scout shirt, and Mick Ralphs was there and Simon was there. I don't remember if Boz was there or not. And they're all kind of sitting down, man, and they were very cool. And Paul gets up and says hello, and we all say hello, And, I'm just talking and, telling Paul how much I love, I love Free and all that stuff. And I might have mentioned to him about seeing that Palladium gig. I can't remember. I might not have, but it's a kind of thing I would have said to him. But so I do the interview, and I was really happy with it. So I go home, and so here I am, writing my first story for Rolling Stone on a typewriter. Remember typewriters, people? So I'm sitting there, and come on, Rosen. This has to be the best thing you've ever done. And, I end up coming up with a story, and I was really happy with it. I thought it was really good. And I remember sending it in and thinking, please, God, please let them like the story, And jumping ahead a bit, yes, they liked the story, and that story ran. And that was my first story in Rolling Stone, and that was one of the greatest days of my life. So we're back in 1974, and the band is playing in San Bernardino. So I said, yeah, man, God, I definitely want to come see the show. And they said, well, why don't you ride out there on the bus with us? I said, yeah, I can do that. I can ride on a bus with Bad Company to a concert, So
Nice.
I remember afterwards, somehow, I don't know if I was leaving or I'd been talking to Simon. I don't know how it happened, but we started talking about books, and I mentioned John Steinbeck, and he said, come down to my room. He had a stack of virtually all of the John Steinbeck books in paperback, all of which I'd read. Mice and Man, Grapes of Wrath, East of Eden, Tortilla Flat, Cannery Row. I mean, Steinbeck, in my mind, was the greatest writer who ever lived, and he was Simon's favorite. So, I mean, we had that connection, and it was just unbelievable. So I'm hanging out a little bit more, and he goes, yeah, man, I'll see you on the bus. So I drive back home, and I only live, 15 minutes from there. So I'm hanging out, trying to be cool and stuff. And, the interview was in the afternoon. So I was supposed to be back there, I don't know, like by 6 or something. So 6 finally rolls around, and, I drive back down to the Hyatt House. And, I see the bus parked out front. And it may have said Bad Company on it. That I can't remember. And so I get on the bus, and all the guys are there. And, I'm sitting like a row in front of, who is that? Sandra, is that you? So
No.
I thought I heard barking.
What?
Dog barking. Sandra. So, we take off. And again, like the ride out there is like an hour and a half. We're hitting the heart of traffic. That's probably a Friday night. And I remember they were opening for Edgar Winter, I think. So this is their first tour, one of the first shows. So they're hardly headliners, and they opened for Edgar Winter. So we're driving out there, and I see Simon's reading one of his books. I said, and it was of Mice and Men. I saw he had of Mice and Men in his lap. Or we were talking about of Mice and Men. I can't remember. So I said, oh my God, what a great book, I go, yeah, Lenny, and I'm trying to think of the other main character's name. And he says, and I don't remember what he said, but he said Lenny and William. I go, no, it's not William. He goes, yes, it is. I go, no, it's not. He goes, yes, it is. I mean, he wasn't getting mad, but he was as sure that it was as I knew that it wasn't. I couldn't remember who it was, but I sure as fuck knew it wasn't Willie. And I said, no, man, it's not. He goes, yeah. I go, I'll bet you $50 it's not William. He goes, okay. So we're sitting there, and he didn't have the book because he probably would have looked it up, and cheated. Probably not. So I'm trying to sit there, and I'm thinking, and even now for some reason, and I've read the book like 5 times, Lenny, and he's the straight character in the book. Oh God, I'm sorry. I don't know why I can never remember it. Hang on. And I'm jumping forward a little bit here because I get Simon to write the intro to my book, which I'll read in a second. I thought he had mentioned. Say it again.
George.
God. So I'm sitting there, and just as if somebody's whispered it in my ear, and where the fuck were you when I needed you back then? And I walk back there, and I lean over, and I go, George. And he goes, oh, my God. And he starts digging. He's going to pay me $50. I said, Simon, there's no way I'm going to take your money. He goes, a bet's a bet. I said, Simon, I'm not going to take your money.
That's great.
So I thought that was so cool. So fast forward to me writing the book in 2001. Simon Kirk writes, Yes, dear reader, your esteemed author accompanied Bad Company on some of the West Coast shows on our first American tour, and pleasant company he was too. Turning in a fine piece to Rolling Stone a bit later. I like to think of myself as a literary buff, and had an ongoing bet with Stephen that the hapless hero in John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men was named Larry. Steve swore it was Lenny. I said he was nuts and raised the bet to $1. He remembers $1. I remember $50.
Wow.
Either way, that was a pretty great moment. So then I see the show, and they are just so good. I mean, you know, oh my God, Bad Company in '74. You know, Paul was still singing so great, and I was never the biggest Mick Rouse fan as a guitar player. I was never a big Mott fan. Maybe that's why I didn't care for his playing, but he was really good in Bad Company. He was playing great stuff, got great guitar sounds, you know. And Boz was cool. Played a fretless bass, which didn't thrill me a whole lot, but a very good bass player. And Simon was Simon. Simon will tell you that he was never the world's best drummer. That he just kind of did what he did, you know. Hitched his wagon to Paul Rodgers, which is a very smart thing to do. But they were great. They're incredibly great. Yeah, I would run into them over the course of the years. Those photos that Tony showed were from the Swan Song sort of inaugural party for them announcing their record label. And the Bad Company guys were there. This was after I'd interviewed them. So, you know, kind of the arms around the shoulders, kind of a, you know, good to see you kind of a thing. And then years later, I do the book, and all those guys made themselves available to me. You know, Simon spent a lot of time on the phone, and he would send me faxes, you know. I don't know why he wouldn't have sent me emails, because his computer was around with him. Anyway, I talked to Paul, and I interviewed him again. He was actually performing, I think it was the Paul Rodgers Band, at the Pomona State Fair. We have these state fairs out here, and the Pomona State Fair draws like, I mean, it's huge. There's like 20,000 people a day. There's like an outdoor show. There was like, I don't know, 6,000 people there. So I remember going to see the show and interview him, and he was great. And I think I interviewed him a couple more times, a couple phoners. Yeah, so it was great. I mean, that band, you know, holds a special place in my heart. You know, that first Rolling Stone story, and they were so cool to me, and they were such a great band. You know, what happened at the end of Free and Kossoff, you know, not being 100%, and, you know, the bad, you know, Paul and Simon kind of going on to do the Bad Company thing without Paul. I mean, that must have hurt him a lot. But, you know, that's life. And, yeah, but so anyway, so we still have all those amazing Free records and all those incredible Bad Company records. Admittedly, the latter-day Paul Rodgers Bad Company records weren't terrific, and after Paul left, they got those other singers. That's just a total waste of time in my mind. But yeah, man, classic band. You know, that whole kind of that really that heavier kind of melodic rock thing, and you know, a lot of those bands were kind of starting to play that style of music. You know, 74, 75. So yeah, they were the real deal. Great band. You know, I was lucky to have met them and spent some time with them.
Yeah, for real. Do you have any memorabilia of Bad Company that you'd like to show?
Other than the back, you know, probably just the passes, you know, in the books and the photos. I may have a letter from Paul Rodgers somewhere. Honestly, I wouldn't know where it was.
That's okay.
when I was doing the book, Paul Kossoff's father was an English actor. And I'd never heard of him, but I think he was a fairly successful English actor, which is apropos of nothing. I just tossed that out there. But I wanted to talk to Koss's parents. I thought, oh my God, that'll be so cool. And I have that letter again somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it is. But I wanted to, talk to Paul's parents. And I guess, Paul had been treated pretty poorly in the press. The English press can be vicious. I mean, they kill their darlings, man. They jump on their heroes, and their English press, their music press. Sometimes they're like tabloid. Sounds, which is an English newspaper I used to write for, and Melody Maker. You probably all heard of Melody Maker, and NME, New Musical Express. And there was Disc. There's a few others, but those are the three big ones. If one of their heroes fell, or was arrested for pot, or was caught drunken and disorderly out in public, I mean, they would jump on that. I mean, it was like gossip to these guys. So, Paul going through his drugs and drinking, I mean, they were pretty unkind to him. And journalists in general, could get pretty nasty. I was never one of those people. It's inconceivable to me. So anyway, so I wrote to the parents. I had the address, and I got back a letter from his father, and he shut me down. And it wasn't nasty, but it was pretty, it was pretty sharp edged. And I guess I took umbrage to it. I said, I don't know what happened between Paul and press previously. I said, I'm the guy who wrote the guitar player story, and I love the guy, and I just want, I'm writing a book and I want to get the full story. And he wrote back, and again, it was a little less nasty, but still pretty nasty. But you talk about memorabilia. Yeah, I've got this letter somewhere, but not quite sure where it is. So, I mean, nothing really to share. At least nothing that I can find readily, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I know they got their. I don't. Go ahead. No, I'm not going to say anything. No, it may be the trivia question, so I didn't hear what that is yet, so I'm not saying anything.
No,
go ahead.
Don't.
I did ask Paul when I interviewed him for a guitar pick, and he gave me. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It might have been just a white Fender pick, not a tortoiseshell, but just a white Fender. I can't remember. I did the Picks of Rock and Roll story, and the pick is in there. Hang on, people. See what you've done, Sandra?
Oh, we're taking a tour.
Oh, I can't go over there. If I unplug my phone from my computer, will it still stay on?
It should.
It should if you're just charging it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
No, you still hear me and see me?
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
can still hear and see you.
Okay, so anyway. Oops. Wrong thing. Hang on. I unplugged the headphones.
We still hear you.
Hang on.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
He'll be back.
Okay.
He'll be back.
I thought he would be able to. If I get like you, Brendan, I thought he was just charging his phone. It should be no problem.
That's what I thought too.
He probably hit something by accident.
It was fine when he unplugged it.
Check out Blackjack Guitar Nut. Thanks, man. Yeah, hit them likes. I don't dress like Alice Cooper every goddamn day.
Steve, hop back in here, dude. My
Well, that you know anyway.
my kids stopped by shortly ago. Let me.
Oh, for trick or treats?
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh,
Aw.
nice.
It's my oldest, and that's my
Cute.
two lovely grandkids. Yeah.
This hat's got to go.
All right.
Yeah, it's not fun, is it?
Well,
So,
it's kind of big, so
are you guys
I could be Slash.
Are you guys eating any Halloween candy here?
Not yet. It's still too early. I didn't test it yet. Usually my wife tests all the Halloween candy.
All right, there he is.
He's
There
back.
he is.
You cannot even even believe what I did. I mean, the first thing I unplugged was my headphones, and of course you're going to still see the camera because it's still plugged in. Then I unplugged the camera, and I realized you can't see me. So I'm trying to reach over to get this thing, which I'll show you, and the headphone jack won't go. And then I try to get back in, and it says you're unplugged the camera, press something, and I'm totally fucked up at this point. So I have to get out of there. I go back. I have to click on the link. And hey, I heard you talking and laughing about me. I can still hear you people.
We weren't laughing about you.
I can hear what you were saying.
Oh, we weren't laughing at you.
So,
Let's
How'd you
look
know?
at this.
Wow.
I realize it's horrible. You can kind of see the pics of rock and roll. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, my wife just told me she had 4 pieces of candy already. So.
Well, I'm sorry, people. That was a total waste of time. The Paul Kossoff pick was not in that display. So put everybody back on here, Tony. I don't want to be out here by myself. This is embarrassing. This is all your fault, Sandra. Any memorabilia. Well, thanks.
Sorry.
God.
I'll take the blame.
Long story short.
Sandra today.
Yeah.
Alice.
Which Sandra? Which Sandra are you blaming? Me or Alice?
This
I'm just asking
selection of guitar picks were like famous guitar picks I'd gotten. I have one from Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of pictures. I thought that the Kossoff pick was in there. It wasn't. But that Kossoff pick, was pretty special.
Well, that's not my fault.
Yeah, it is. You asked for memorabilia.
Oh, boy.
What the hell?
When did he pass away, Steve?
Imagine me asking about memorabilia on a show called Show Me Your Pick.
Sandra, it's not my fault. It can't be my fault. So it has to be your fault.
All right. I'll take it. Now that's over.
But yeah, that Kossoff pick was pretty mythological, to be honest. You know, amongst pick collectors, that was like,
sure,
that was a pretty rare one. Anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Steve, I had stepped away a moment ago. Have you told us about going and watching Elvis with Paul Rogers yet? Did you tell that while I was gone?
I forgot about that. No, I forgot about that. So the next day, so we drive out there that afternoon that I do the interview, and I see the show, we come back on the bus, and we get back to the hotel, and it just coincidentally, the very next day, I had tickets for Elvis Presley. Of course, it's Elvis Presley, not Elvis Costello. Elvis Presley at the Inglewood Forum. I knew that Paul was a major Elvis fan. I mean, he loved Elvis. So I think I must have been getting off the bus, and I'm kind of getting off, and the Hyatt House, the parking lot is kind of in the back, so you kind of walk through the hotel, and you like walk up a set of stairs, and you get to the lobby, and then you get to like the landing where the cars are. So I'm kind of walking back, and Paul's kind of, the whole band's walking, to the elevators. And I must have asked him then, because I'm sure I didn't, call on the phone the next day, or anything like that. And I certainly wouldn't have come back to ask him, I wouldn't have found, so I must have asked him that night thinking about it. So I said, hey, Paul, listen, I've got tickets for tomorrow night to go see Elvis at the Forum. Do you want to go? He says, "Fucker, are you kidding me? I'd love to go." I said, "Well, cool. I said, I'll be back here tomorrow at, whatever it was, 6 to pick you up." I can remember before asking him, thinking, you should ask him. This would be a great moment. Don't be a chicken shit like you sometimes can be, or wimp out. Ask him. So I'm so happy I found the courage to ask him. So I drive over the next day, and I get out of the car, and there's like a little drive-through port in front of the Hyatt House front doors. Cars would pull up. If you were staying there, you'd unload your luggage, and drive on through or drive around. There was a ramp up to the parking area. So I'm parked out there, and he walks out, and he looks at the car, and the first words out of his mouth are "Triumph Herald," and I am doubled over in laughter. I had this Triumph Herald, which was like the world's ugliest English sports car.
Manual transmission.
Triumph tried to import some of those cars over here. I don't know how many they imported. Not many. And
I had a Triumph.
They never caught on. Excuse me?
I had a Triumph.
Did you want to interject?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So he looks at it, and the only people who knew what the car was me, because I knew what it was, obviously, and my brother, who knows everything about every car ever made. When I got the car, he goes, "Oh, it's a Triumph Herald," which just astonished me. But so this car, I had gotten about 2 years earlier. Jacoba Atlas was a writer for Rolling Stone and the correspondent for Melody Maker. I mean, this girl, I bowed down to her. She was so heavy. She was doing major interviews, I was just starting, and she worked at a company called Gibson and Stromberg. Gibson and Stromberg were one of the first, if not the first, rock and roll PR company. Back in the day, unlike now, or the 80s, 90s, when rock and roll became big business, there were no companies devoted 100% to doing publicity for rock and roll bands. But Gibson Stromberg was there. I think their first year was 70. I sort of met them in 72. Through various people, I came to know them, and they took a liking to me. They liked, this guy, Steve Rosen, the new kid on the block, So they would pitch every act they had to me. They opened the doors to every band they had. And they had everybody from, Commander Cody, Black Kangaroo, which was a band with Peter Kaukonen. Peter Kaukonen was Jorma Kaukonen's brother. Jorma Kaukonen was the guitar player in Jefferson Airplane. So they had Black Kangaroo, Commander Cody, Steely Dan. this is like 73, the first, first or second Steely Dan records. The Stones, they routinely would get me tickets to all the Stones shows. Wild Turkey, which was Glenn Cornick. Glenn Cornick was the bass player for Jethro Tull prior to Wild Turkey. Sutherland Brothers and Quiver, this really great English band. Hurricane Smith, who's this English artist who actually did some hanging out and some engineering with the Beatles. Jeff Beck. If any of you have heard my Jeff Beck story, Gibson Stromberg is the one who hooked that up. Became my first cover in Guitar Player, and I realized I'm covering a lot of ground here, so follow carefully, people. So to get back to the point, so Kobe said, "Hey, I have a car. Do you want my car?" And I didn't have a car at the time. I go, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Yeah, you can have my car." Well, okay. She goes, "Yeah, well, come and see it." So I went and see it, and I forgot where she was living. She may have been living somewhere in the hills, the Hollywood Hills. And it was literally, it was in this garage, and it had been in the garage so long, there was like vegetation growing from it. I mean, there was cobwebs on it. Obviously, it had not been driven for years. And I realized when I got there that it was, or she must have told me, and I realized that it was a stick. Well, little Stevie didn't know how to drive a stick. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I thought, I'm going to get my buddy Chris. He drives a stick. He knows all about cars. So in his infinite wisdom, he thought, well, my God, if this car's been sitting there, there's no way that it's going to start. So he said, to have even half a chance of it starting, I'll bring a battery. So he brings along a car battery. So we go to Kobe's house. She opens up the garage. I look at this car, and it's so ugly. It's beautiful, I mean, it's kind of like that racing English green. It had this hard top that was faded, and the plastic convertible window. It was a convertible. It's so frosted over, I mean, it's like brown. I mean, there's no way you can see through the window. But I thought the car was amazing. So we get in there, and I think it's the hood, it unlatches, two unlatches, and, you push the hood up from like the body forwards, not like American cars where it's, from the front of the car back, it's like a truck hood, and which I couldn't even figure it out. So God bless Chris. He knew how to open the hood. So he looks in there, and he was doing his ratcheting and his wrenching, and he takes out the old battery, he puts the new battery in, and it's all hooked up, and he gets in the driver's seat, and he clicks it over, and I swear to God, that thing turns over on the first click. I mean, this car was amazing. So Kobe Atlas gives me her car.
Wow.
Again, I did not know how to drive a stick, so for the next few days, Chris taught me how to drive a stick, for which I am forever indebted. So fast forward, this is, I think, a couple of years. So I'm parked out in front with this English racing green Triumph Herald. And Paul Rogers walks out and goes, "Triumph Herald." And that's like, I mean, that connective tissue of that happening. I mean, because I bet that you could have gone up there and emptied out every person in every room in the Hyatt House. And I bet you there weren't two other people who knew what the car was. So anyway, so we get in the car, and he loves it, and it's a wood dash, and nothing works. And I've had like switches replaced. There's no radio. There's a clock that doesn't work. And he loves it. He's talking about it. And, so we're driving, and I'm trying to concentrate on driving, saying, "Don't crash the car with Paul Rogers. Don't crash the car with Paul Rogers in it, So I'm trying to, figure out the best way down to the Forum. And I don't want to get on the freeway with this car. Thinking, the last thing I need is for the car to break down or, We finally get there, and I can tell he's pretty excited. I mean, it's like me being on the Bad Company bus, going to see Paul and that company. I mean, he was excited. I could tell he was. So we go in and we get the, I give him a ticket. And I can remember he's kind of looking at the ticket, Elvis Presley at the Fabulous Forum. And we go to the seats, and they weren't great. They weren't terrible. Typically, press seats are pretty good. But honestly, we could have been sitting outside in the parking lot. It wouldn't have mattered to him. The fact that he was inside about to see Elvis. I don't think Elvis ever had an opening act. But, he'd have the band come out, that amazing band he had. And then maybe the singers, he had those great backup singers would come out. I think he had male and female singers, and they would do their thing. And then somebody would announce, now Elvis Presley, And Elvis comes out, and he gets up out of his seat like he is singing the Beatles. And he stands there, I swear to God, he stands for virtually the entire show. And everybody else is standing as well. And I must admit, and if you guys are seeing this weird reflection on me, sorry about that. I don't know where that's coming from. But I was not particularly an Elvis fan. But I mean, I'm watching him, and every time Elvis would do a dance move, Paul was like doing like a sympathetic dance move, and he was singing along to Elvis's songs. I mean, this is, as great as it was interviewing him, as great as it was riding on their bus and seeing the band, and now, sitting next to Paul Rodgers watching Elvis Presley. That was a momentous moment for me. So we're watching the show, and he's freaking out. And Elvis would, wear those scarves. I think he might have worn them on his arms as well. And he would, toss them out in the audience. And I think Paul actually wanted to run down to try and get one, So the show's over, and we knew, or Paul knew, that Zeppelin were there because this was right around the Swan song. That's it. Like I said, the Swan song party. So Zeppelin had been in town, and Paul must have heard that Zeppelin were going to be at the show, and so for starters, they don't invite Paul to go with them to see the show. They're going to go see Elvis. They know that Paul Rodgers is the biggest fan in the world, and they don't invite him to go. So that's a pretty shitty thing to do. So we walk down to the side of the stage. And again, this is 74, and it's pretty loose in terms of being able to hang out around the stage or, the gate or the door to the backstage without getting, booted out by security. So we're there. And I'm trying to think, well, am I going to try to get us back or is Paul? I mean, it makes sense that Paul would. I mean, this is Paul fucking Rodgers. I mean, he's got the new record out. He's just played a gig the night before. His manager is backstage. So I thought, well, this is a no-brainer. But we kind of get there, and Paul kind of hangs back. I thought, well, okay. So I'm trying to explain to this bouncer. I go, hi, my name is Steve Rosen, and I'm a music journalist, and I write for magazines and stuff. And I'm with Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers is in Bad Company, and his manager, Peter Grant, is backstage, I'm sure that Peter will let us go backstage if you could just let them know that Paul Rodgers is out. And the guy was cool. I mean, I don't think he had a clue who Paul Rodgers was, but, he believed the story. So he walks, I see him disappear, and a few minutes later, Peter Grant comes to the this back entrance. Peter's a very, very big guy. So he walks back and he sees Paul, and I think, this is cool, man. He's gonna let us go back. And to be honest, I didn't care if I met Elvis or not. The fact that the Zeppelin guys were back there, I thought, well, that could be cool, But to meet Elvis Presley, it just didn't mean anything to me. So I'm thinking, okay, cool, So I see Paul, kind of walking forward. He sees Peter Grant standing there. And Paul comes over, and Peter Grant says something. There's too many people back there, and I can't get you back. And I thought he said something like, the Zeppelin guys don't want you back. So I'm thinking, oh my God, is this really happening? Am I really in the middle of this conflagration? Yeah, this explosively, fiery episode. And so I'm just kind of look at Paul and yeah, okay. So we kind of walk away, and we get back to the car, and I said, man, I am so sorry. I said, I'm so sorry. No, it's okay, And he's trying to shrug it off. This guy was demoralized. I mean, as you can rightly understand. I mean, he's there. He's just seen, maybe, his biggest idol ever. He loved the Beatles. He loved McCartney. So that probably would have been one. But I'll bet you Elvis Presley was 2 or 3, And he's thinking, I'm sure he's thinking after the show, yeah, I know Peter's back there and the boys, the lads, are back there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to meet Paul. I'm going to meet Elvis Presley. And then this happens. I mean, I could see it on his face. I mean, it was horrible. I can remember later when I interviewed Paul again for the book. I remember I said, Paul, that night, seeing Elvis, he goes, oh yeah, I'm so thankful that you took me. I said, what those guys did to you? I said, that was horrible. And he still acted like it was nothing. I'm sure he didn't want to say that fucking asshole Peter Grant and those fucking guys and stuff. I hate them for that. It's the kind of thing you want to hear from these guys, which, they're probably not going to say in front of you. But it was just, that Zeppelin, who obviously were big, well, not obviously, they were also big Presley fans. And, well, I mean, I think it's pretty well known that Page was a huge Presley fan, all those early Presley records he was listening to and all that. Scotty Moore and James, the guitar player who replaced Scotty Moore, sorry. But yeah, he was highly influenced by those records. But, they kind of wanted Elvis all to themselves. So, yeah, so that was my Paul Rogers. So then I, drive him back to the hotel, and I gets out and shake hands. He goes, thank you so much. That was great.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Nice. That is
especially it was probably cool to see Paul Rogers be a fanboy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And there weren't that many people in the world, like I said, that he was going to act that way. I mean, yeah, it was Paul McCartney. I mean, he loved McCartney. He talked about that all the time. I mean, maybe there's some other people up there, some huge, people that he held dear. But yeah, for him to see Elvis,
that's
at
cool.
the very least, he had the opportunity to see Elvis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
So, yeah. Cool.
Let me put up a picture or two, Steve. I want you to elaborate on these, if you would, sir. We have this one.
Yeah, that's looking at the photo. That's Boz Burrell on the left and Mick Rouse on the right. And that is the Swan Song Party, which was held at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Pretty positive. The Beverly Hills Hotel is the big pink one on Sunset Boulevard. You've seen it on the cover of Hotel California. I mean, it's like the Shishi Hotel in all of, sort of West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. And this party was major. So Bad Company is there, of course. Groucho Marx was there. I don't think you have that photo, Tony. But I remember going up to Groucho and kind of sticking my head in there. And he was sitting next to this unbelievably beautiful woman. So kind of, he's kind of looking at the woman, and I'm kind of looking at Groucho and telling the photographer, take the picture. But there was all kinds of people there that night. The other picture, Tony, I don't know if you have it queued up.
Let me cue it.
So that's, Simon Kirke on the left, and Paul on the right. And Yeah, that was great.
Same night there, Steve.
Same night. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And then you have that last one, don't you, Tony? Kossoff?
I don't have it queued up. I do have it though.
Well, so Kossoff was there that same night. Or I think it was the same night. I can tell
Now,
you by
when
what I'm
did
wearing.
Paul Kossoff pass away, Steve?
76.
Let me show this here.
No, I'm sorry. I'm wearing different clothes, so that wasn't at that party, which would have been strange thinking about it if Kossoff had been there and all the bad company guys had been there. So yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, I can't remember who that party was for, but I think that was later that day after I'd interviewed him. So he was there, but yeah, and you can see how small Paul was. I mean, on a good day, you know, if I'm standing on an incline and the wind is blowing, I'm like 5'6". I towered over Paul like I was a basketball player. I mean, I swear the guy was probably like 5'4", 5'5".
Wow.
Yeah.
He was so good, man.
Yeah.
What a shame. You know, I remember, you know, I've interviewed bands where a member has passed away, and my inclination is to say, why the fuck didn't you do something? You know.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Rogers and Simon, and even Andy Frazier. You know, why didn't you guys do something? I mean, the truth is, there's nothing they could have done. I'm sure they tried to help in their own way, but you know, you are that far gone into an addiction. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, your family. I mean, there's nobody.
It's hard unless you're ready to get help.
Right.
You're not gonna get it. You know.
Exactly.
I didn't realize that's what happened. Yeah, that's too bad.
You know, and it's funny because I remember asking Paul. I said, "Well, you know, was Koss kind of the only one getting high in those 3 days?" He goes, "No, you know, I mean, it was a lot of pot back then, which is like, yeah, okay." But you know, Koss started getting into sort of the English equivalent of Quaaludes. They were called mandrakes. They called them mandies. You know, and there were pills around, and you know, I think Paul got into coke. I think they all got into coke a little bit, but you know, for them it was manageable. You know, some people it's not. But,
yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well.
Very sad.
Moderation goes with some, and some it does not, as we all know. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yep.
All right.
But those last. I'm sorry, Tony. Last comment. That first, I think Paul made a couple Backstreet Crawler records. That first Backstreet Crawler record was pretty good. I mean, I thought it was a good record. And in fact, Backstreet Crawler played, thinking about it now, I think they played the Starwood, and I saw Kossoff there. Oh, interesting. I mean, I can't remember if I had said hello to him again, or maybe that's why he was out here actually thinking about it, which is when I did the interview. Because I think they played the Starwood in '76. It must have been the same time he was out here for the interview. So, and maybe that photo was taken at a Backstreet Crawler party. Huh, that's entirely possible. So, yeah. So just
who was in his band? Anybody notable?
No, not notable, but there were some good players. I think Rabbit was a keyboard player, played with the Who. I mean, really good keyboard player. I think he was in the band. There was a drummer called Tony Bronigal, who was like a studio guy. also a very good drummer. I can't remember the other guys. Bass player. Yeah, but that was a good record. I mean, he was still playing really well. But those last free sessions, I think Heartbreaker was that last free record that he did. I mean, he was in really bad shape. They actually had this guy, Snuffy Walden. Snuffy was in a band called Stray Dog, an amazing band. He was, oh my God, what a guitar player he was. Snuffy also did the theme music for several TV shows. In fact, that's what he went on to do as a career. But they brought Snuffy in to play some of Paul's guitar parts. And if you didn't know, I mean, you wouldn't know that you weren't listening to Paul Kossoff. And when Paul found out that they had done that, I mean, that really crushed him. And again, understandably so.
Yeah.
That was like a betrayal for him. But, records in the works, you got to get a record done. I mean, what do you do? But Backstreet Caller, I think that was when I interviewed him, and that's when that photo was taken.
So, Steve, on marching down the road on into the 80s, what was your take and your connections when they formed the supergroup The Firm?
I don't know if I ever specifically interviewed Paul for The Firm. I mean, The Firm was like 86, something like that, 85, 86. So before The Firm, obviously I wouldn't have known that Paul was in The Firm. I may have done a phoner with Paul in the 80s, but we wouldn't have talked about The Firm because I didn't know about The Firm. And after the fact, again, I interviewed him, for my book, for the free book in 2003. So obviously that was after The Firm, and I may have asked him about The Firm. In fact, I'm sure I did. But at the time, no, I never did. I saw The Firm a couple times. So Guitar World wanted a story on Jimmy Page. So The Firm were playing in Daytona Beach, Florida. So they flew me out to Daytona Beach. And the same thing happened as had happened when I flew out in 77 to interview Page with Zeppelin for Guitar Player. I waited and waited and hung out. And, just like I was in 77, I mean, I'm afraid to leave my hotel room because I know as soon as I leave my hotel room, they're going to call and say, that's funny, Dogpa. You're making fun of me? I don't think I ever shredded in my life as much as I wanted to and aspired to. So I was afraid to leave my hotel room because I knew as soon as I left, the phone was going to ring. I wasn't going to be there. I was going to blow the whole interview, and all the walls would come tumbling down. So I basically was staying in the room, which was right on the beach. I mean, it was nice. I remember one afternoon or one day, and I literally, I think I waited for 3 days. I thought, fuck it, I'm walking outside, and walk out, walk along the beach, it was nice. And so I walked back in, and either the phone had rung and there was a little blinking red light, or it was ringing or something. But you know how life goes. The minute you walk away from the phone's gonna ring. So so finally, I think it was Tim Martin who was Page's guitar tech. Yeah, man, Jimmy, we'll talk now. So I remember going into the room, and this isn't a conversation about Page, so I'll kind of skip through this. But he was an asshole. Oh, man. Oh, my God. I mean, 77, Oh, my God. That was a nightmare. But at least you know, he seemed to try a little bit. I mean, he was an asshole, but he tried to make the interview interesting and be merit worthy. And again, maybe he knew it was the cover of Guitar Player magazine. This time around, you know, I mean, I walk in and thinking, well, you know, he's done a lot of interviews. Well, I take it back. Jimmy Page never did a lot of interviews, but he'd done a fair amount of interviews. You know, it was almost 10 years since I had interviewed him. I was thinking, well, maybe he'll remember me, you know. If he doesn't remember me, maybe he'll remember the Guitar Player cover. So I walk in, and it's like, he's like oblivious. I mean, I could have, you know, I could have been, you know, the man in the moon. He didn't know me from shit. And I might have mentioned, I said, hey, I did the interview with you in 77 for Guitar Player. He goes, yeah. So we sit down. And I remember one of the first questions, which I thought was interesting, was the different dynamic in working with Paul versus Robert Plant. You know, Paul played guitar. He was more of a complete songwriter, where Plant was just writing lyrics, you know, melodies. You know, I thought the connection would have been on a different level. So I said something like, well, it must be different, you know, working with, you know, Paul than it was working with Robert. He says, well, what the fuck do you think? Of course it's different. This is the first fucking question I'm going, uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. We're in for a ride. So he says, yo, what the fuck you think? Yeah, what the fuck you think was different? Yeah, now I'm like, you know, my brain is freezing. I'm looking at my notes going, Paul, who's Paul? Who's Robert? I don't even know where the fuck I am. And he's, you know, he's getting insane over the first question. And I say something like, well, you know, the dynamic is different, you know, and, you know, Paul playing guitar, and, you know, I said something, he answers something. Then I asked something again about touring, you know, with the firm in '86. I said, it must be so different than, when I saw the show with Zeppelin in '77. He says, of course it's fucking different. What the fuck do you think? Oh, God. And I can feel the first twinges of a migraine. I used to get migraines back in the day. And any of you who have suffered through migraines, it is a pain. I wouldn't wish it, man, on a serial killer. It is excruciating. And I can feel it starting to tighten. And, you know, your vision gets a little blurry and it's kind of bright in the room. And so I go on, man, and I, you know, say a couple questions and I get, you know, decent responses. Being honest about it, at the end of it all, the interview was a pretty good interview. It was the cover in Guitar World, I think, in late '86. And I left in all of these moments when he'd say, you fucking asshole, you dickhead, you know, with a stupid question. I left that stuff in here figuring, fuck him, you know? He said that stuff. And if Guitar World didn't want it in, they'd cut it out. But they left it in. There were moments when it gotten so bad when he would jump on me that Jim Martin, who was always there, also there, and a very sweet guy, he'd kind of jump in and intervene. And he said, well, you know, Jimmy, you know, and he turned to me and said, well, what Jimmy really meant was, you know, Jimmy had a B-string bender on his guitar, you know, on the Telecasters he'd play, and, you know, the Les Paul was a 50, you know, and he tried to act as a mediator, and I'm thankful he did that. But in answer to your question, Tony, I never did interview Paul during that period, but certainly I talked to Page about it. I said, you know, making a leap of faith, I assumed he had to be a fan of Free, right? So I said, you must have been a big Free fan. He goes, yeah, I really like Free, you know, great band. And I said, you know, did Zeppelin and Free ever play together? He goes, no, we never played together. But, you know, there was like questions when he'd kind of get it, you know, and he'd become a human being. And then I'd say something so innocuous, you know, that was not meant to be confrontational at all. And he would go off. And I didn't even know how to defend myself because in my mind, I had said something so harmless. And just last couple of comments here, which kind of tie in, to this period we're in now, and the passing, Edward's, terrible passing. So in '86, I mean, I was really close with Ed. I had done the Guitar World cover with Ed, and I mean, we'd spent a lot of time together. I'd go up to 5150, and he would call a lot. I mean, I was pretty close friends. So I remember asking him. I thought, well, in general, I thought that's an interesting question, right? Here you have Jimmy Page, an iconic guitar player from the '60s and '70s. We get into the '80s. Zeppelin kind of goes by the wayside. He puts together the Firm. There's a couple other bands in there, right? The Law. I don't know if the Coverdale Whitesnake band had happened. But, Jimmy in my mind, trying to find that past glory of Zeppelin, which he never did, at least in my mind. Which isn't to say he didn't make some interesting music along the way, but nothing ever came close to Zeppelin. So I thought, well, it's an interesting and a valid question. They asked him about Jimmy, asked him about Eddie Van Halen, who is, the Jimmy Page of the '80s, right? The late '70s, '80s, would be the '90s and 2000s. So I mean, the kind of this new word kid on the block, and Jimmy Page. So I remember asking about Eddie, and I remember as soon as I said the words, he didn't like the question. I'm going to jump ahead here. There have been covers in Guitar World, I think, where there's Ed and Jimmy on the cover. Well, that photo was taken with the two of them in the same room, though that may have also been a Photoshop. But what I can tell you is that Jimmy Page and Edward Van Halen were probably not in the same room when they did that interview. Very few of those interviews where you see like James Hetfield from Metallica with Tony Iommi. I mean, what are the chances of Tony Iommi being somewhere where James Hetfield's going to be, right? One guy lives in England, one guy lives out here at the West Coast. I mean, and most of those stories were done like reverse engineering, So you'd interview Tony Iommi and say, well, what do you think of Metallica? What do you think of these new guitar players? And then you'd interview Metallica and say, well, what do you think of Metallica? What do you think of Black Sabbath? And, blah, blah, blah. I did the same kind of thing. I did a story with Slash and Ace, and they were actually in the same room taking photos. And I was supposed to do the interview with both of them, but Slash had to take off. So I ended up interviewing both of them on separate occasions. I interviewed Ace there at the photo studio, and I interviewed Slash about a week later on the phone. But you never know, because I mean, I knew what I'd asked Slash. I knew what I asked Ace, and he just kind of, connect the dots. So my point being about that cover with Page and Van Halen in Guitar World is, Jimmy, and there might even be current comments by Page. I don't know. I loved Edward. He was special, and he was a great guitar player. Well, that's not what he said when I interviewed him. I mean, he didn't come out and say it was bad. I mean, that would have been insane for him to say that. But I think he thought he was a good guitar player. And he goes, yeah, that thing he does, Page didn't know the name for it, or wasn't willing to admit he knew the name for the right-hand tapping. He says, I can't play like that. I don't know how to do that. He says, plus I can't smile like that. Mm-hmm. That was a dig, man. That was not a compliment. And, Page was giving me a headache, but now the migraine is like throbbing. My eyeballs are dripping blood, and I can barely see the questions.
Oh, Lord.
I had typed out on the paper. So I thought, well, fuck this guy. So I asked him like 3 or 4 more questions about Van Halen. Like I'm prodding like the bear. Like, you're going to give me shit, fucker? Well, check feet on this, dickhead. And I said, well, what Eddie's doing is really special, he's influenced a lot of kids. He goes, well, yeah, I know that. He says, and he said to me, I know you're his good friend. I said, yeah, I'm his very good friend. He goes, yeah, I know that. Don't you think I know that? And he's getting mad. And it's like, I think this is so great, But yeah, So in long answer to your question, yeah, he loved Paul Rogers. Paul Rogers in the firm, I didn't think it was great. I don't think he sang great. I thought the songs were kind of bad. I remember the one song they had,
Right on, Lou.
Radioactive. Like Radioactive, that strange, cool little page lick. But everything else, man, sounded like, I don't know, bad Jimmy Page riffs. It's like, not one of those riffs have ever made it on a Zeppelin record. But yeah, but Paul, Paul was with him. I think it was also in The Law. I think that was Paul Rogers' thing. But yeah, no, I never talked to Paul about specifically about the firm until years later with the book, and I'm sure I asked him about playing with Page. I'm sure it must have been an amazing experience for him.
Yeah.
Strangely, when I heard that Paul was going to sing with Queen, I thought that's going to be the worst thing that's ever been. There's no way that Paul Rogers can sing Freddie Mercury songs. He didn't have that range. He didn't have that kind of voice. But man, I thought what he did with Queen. I mean, it wasn't Freddie Mercury, but it was pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, Steve,
so there you go.
Your book on Free Bad Company came out when?
Let's see. Because I can never remember. 2001. Wow. Long time ago.
01.
Yeah, I was happy with that book. I mean,
did you get any support off the guys while you were writing it or afterwards?
Yeah, they were cool. Yeah, I mean, Paul, I did interviews with me for the book. Simon did a lot of interviews. The only guy I could never find was the bass player, Andy Frazier. Oh, man, talk about getting senile. Wow. Andy Frazier, yeah. I could never find him. I subsequently interviewed Andy, God, I don't know, years ago. I told him I've been trying to find him for the book. He was great. Very nice guy. Yeah, so he was a missing piece, and that always bothered me. But yeah, the guys are really cool, and I think I had. I think after the fact, well, Simon wrote the foreword, and I think I talked to Paul. Well, I'm sure I interviewed Paul after that. I'm pretty sure I interviewed Simon. I think they both kind of dug the book, so that was gratifying.
Yeah. Bad Company has hit the road here in recent years with Paul Rogers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Paul here in recent years?
Yeah. Howard Leese plays guitar. I mean, it's good. It's good. And Howard's a good guitar player. It's not Mick Ralph's, but it is all those great songs. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think they have the guy from Heart in there, Howard Leese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Simon plays drums.
Yeah.
Simon plays drums.
I saw Bad Company on I guess in the late 80s, early 90s, the Holy Diver, Holy Water tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had gone out with damn Yankees that summer and saw them. Yeah. It wasn't Paul
Yeah, they were
Rogers,
kind.
though.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't Paul Rogers.
No, it was the other
Ah,
blonde-headed guy who's
Brian,
passed away. Brian something.
Brian Howe. I actually met him. I used to work as like a, well, I'd like to call myself a, a personal assistant, but the real truth is I was a gopher. The songwriter, Mark Spiro, unbelievably great songwriter. Wrote The Cheap Trick, wrote for Heart. Um, John Waite, wrote with Julian Lennon. Anyways, I used to go over to his studio. He lived, not far from me, and clean up the studio. We'd be smoke and empty ashtrays, label tapes, blah blah blah. But yeah, he worked with Brian Howe for a while. Wrote some songs with Brian. So Brian was over there for a few days, I think. He's a good singer. Not Paul Rogers, of course.
Yeah, no, certainly not. I think Bad Company did a bunch of shows last year, or I guess a couple years gone now. Did a bunch of shows on Leonard Skinner's last tour.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw Skinner on that tour, but not with Bad Company, but with Cheap Trick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Which
What
wasn't
the
a
hell are
bad
you doing
show.
there, Alice? God. Come on, sit still. Wow.
Alice.
What?
Nice cap there, Alice.
Thank you.
I like. We're going to have our trivia giveaway
Thank God.
here shortly.
I mean,
My
I'm going to
sentiments.
show a couple of these Bad Company picks here in the
Nice.
meantime.
So how come you're not giving away a Bad Company?
I don't have many of them, and I thought that since in honor of your awesome, incredible new Michael Anthony interview, that we would give away a Michael Anthony pick.
Okay, well that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I want to congratulate Steve Rosen on 1,000 subscribers.
Nice.
How did you know that? Isn't that freaking unbelievable?
Very cool.
I appreciate
Very nice.
that. I'm blown away by that, honestly.
That's cool.
Outstanding.
It's pretty cool.
All right, so those are the
1,000 people out there like me. That's okay. That's good. 1,000 people like me.
So this is the giveaway pick. This is a 09 Chickenfoot Michael Anthony pick that we're gonna
cool.
give away here in
Very cool.
just a second here.
You know the story of the Chickenfoot name, don't you? You know how they got Chickenfoot?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
So Joe, Sammy, Michael, and Chad Smith get together and they're playing, and they realize it's a thing, So they're trying to come up with names, and they can never do it. So as a placeholder, they always say, "Yeah, man, Chickenfoot's going to get together." They just call themselves just as a goof, and they're trying to come up with names, and none of them could come up with anything to replace it. So they just left the Chickenfoot. Pretty funny.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's cool.
Thanks, Dwight. Yeah.
Nice. I
Excellent.
never knew that. Yeah, yeah, I like their stuff. I like Joe in there on guitar. Um, but yeah, keeping Joe in one
Tony, can I?
place.
I'm sorry.
No, no.
Sorry, Tony.
What are you gonna say?
Tony, can I veer off? Can I veer off subject for a second here?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So Rick just wrote, I got bored with listening to Hendrix and EVH. Tony, don't solo me. Leave me up there with everybody. I don't want to be alone because this guy's going to come fucking after me.
Don't want to be alone.
I don't want to be soloed here, pal. I need my guys around me.
I got your
So,
back,
you know,
Steve. I got your back, man.
There you go. I got bored with listening. This is what Rick wrote. I got bored with listening to Hendrix and EVH. Both are innovators, but shitty songwriters. What does IMO mean?
In my opinion.
In my opinion.
Oh, I never knew. There are others I feel the same about, such as, oh, he means Vi and Satriani. Wow, I have to just disagree wholeheartedly. I mean, those Hendrix songs are those are just some of the greatest songs from the 60s. I mean, I think they're great. And Ed as a songwriter, now what you're hearing is, you know, Ed writing the music and the riffs and the changes and all that stuff, and then Dave coming in and doing his lyrics and his melodies, which Ed had no control over. Thank you, CK. Now, Ed was not specifically a lyric, or certainly not a lyric writer, nor a melody writer. I remember asking him, did you ever suggest, you know, melodies to Dave? He goes, well, I might have heard a little thing here and there, but it was mainly Dave. But, you know, with Hendrix, I mean, it's all him, you know, writing the music and the lyrics and the melodies. But God, man, as songwriters, those guys, you know, I mean, we're still talking about those Hendrix songs, 76, 86, 96, you know, over 50 years later. I mean, in 50 years from now, what songwriters will we be talking about? I mean, you know, the Beatles, obviously, some of the Stones songs. But I mean, you know, U2, are they going to be discussing, you know, Aerosmith? I mean, I don't know. I just, anyway, man, I totally get your opinion. I just, I kind of disagree with that one. But anyway.
Yeah,
moving
those
forward.
Hendrix songs, if we could only have gotten more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Yeah, I must say, Steve, the Michael Anthony interview up there right now is pure gold. Just absolutely pure gold. If you're a big Van Halen fan, oh dear Lord. Yes, it to hear these guys speak about what's going on at that particular time. We all know what was going on at that time, but have never ever heard exactly from the horse's mouth what's going on. It's absolutely golden. Yes.
Well, thanks, man. You know, I honestly, I have never listened to those interviews since the day I did them. I mean, as I was putting, you know, that one together and the one with Ed, you know, I mean, I listened to a little bit of it, but I really don't listen to them top to bottom. I mean, it's a little weird for me to listen to them. I don't know why. It's just I don't know why, but I do remember Mike kind of, you know, not saying some nice things about Dave, but you know, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but that interview with Mike was done the day after I interviewed Ed, or maybe I never mentioned that in the intro, which I never realized. I didn't. And when I flew out to interview Ed in Detroit, I interviewed Mike the next day. I had always thought I'd interviewed Mike out here at Ed's house, out here in California. But so that was Mike sitting there the next day. That's when he starts talking and his throat's getting scratchy. And, I'm thinking, oh my God, the guy's going to lose his voice doing this interview. I think I said, are you okay? He goes, my voice is completely gone or something. That's when I'm ready to do the show. But, you get a sense of what kind of a person Mike was. He was a very cool guy, very kind of a stable guy, centered, obviously loved the band,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cool.
Let's give away a guitar pick, guys, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yes.
right. So,
Yes, we should. Good luck, chat.
everybody out there in chat land ready? Get your fingers loose. This is one question pertaining to Bad Company. See how well you know your Bad Company history here. We're giving away this nice Chickenfoot Michael Anthony 2009 guitar pick. Okay, so short question, short answer. Let's see what you got, folks. Here we go. Paul Rogers lives in what country? Anybody?
Not you, Steve.
Anybody?
It's not New
That's the one
Zealand.
question I know.
It is not Wales. It is not Switzerland. It is not Scotland. Alface, no. Dwight Bailey, no. Blackjack, Guitar Nut, no.
Tony, put the question up again.
Lenny Lou. Lenny Lou got it.
Lenny Lou to the rescue.
Yeah,
Canada.
Right. It's what country is he a citizen of? Not what country was he born in?
No.
Yes.
Right.
Oops. Congrats.
His wife and manager, she is Canadian. So I know he's been over there for a long time.
Lenny Lou. All right.
Congratulations.
We appreciate you being here. We appreciate everybody being here. Lenny, I think I have your information. I will be mailing you this out early Monday morning. Way to go. Outstanding. Yeah. Very, very nice. Okay. All right. Let's take care of a little business. Brendan B. Squared handcrafts custom cigar box guitars, and he will certainly make you one just like you want it if you contact him, and they are super, super nice. You have one nearby to show us, B?
Yeah, I do. Older one, but here's one.
I'm trying to see Alice on my screen. I see Sandra, and oh Lord.
This one,
nice.
yeah, I made this
Nice.
a while ago. So it's I kind of screwed up.
Nice.
I screwed up the fret job, so I put a Zippo pin here. I wedged it in there, so it's only got 18 frets, but that's okay. Yeah, it's cool. I like the headstock.
Nice.
It's really
Yeah.
neat. The cool thing is, I learned this cool trick from this guy actually from Australia on setting the tuning pegs, because a lot of times you cut down the headstock so you have enough room for the strings, right? But this guy, he's like, I took a Forstner bit and drilled down a little bit, and then I had enough room, and it actually creates a nice break angle for the string, so you don't need a string tree. So I really like that. So I've been using that a lot lately, and it's good. So
Cool.
Nice.
yeah, I'm on build number 60. So
Oh,
and
nice.
Wow.
I started building back in 2018, and so I'm on build number 60.
That's
Still
great.
like
You
it.
can have logos on it, paint jobs, string options, any of that be right?
Yeah, I'm kind of venturing into the paint options. I have actually have a couple that I'm going to be bringing to another guy that's in the chat sometimes. Johnny, Craig. He does all the custom
Yeah,
work for a lot of EVH stuff.
right.
So I'm having a couple of cigar boxes sanded and painted, EVH stripes. So I'm going to make
Oh, nice.
so that should be cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. And let's give a huge shout out to our co-producer and lovely moderator,
Oh yeah.
the lovely Sandra Pokorney, right there.
Very nice. Does a
Yeah.
hell of a job.
Most welcome.
And be sure to tune into her show each Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the communication breakdown with her and Gary Big G. Always lots of fun. Always a hoot. Jay the ice cream man. Gary always up to no good.
Always.
Gotta love him. Gotta love him. So your show, Sandra, is going to be coming on here in a good another hour. Who are your guests on the show tonight?
I have a special co-host, Fruitcake Tony. Some of you might have heard of him.
Oh,
I have guitarist Aaron Sutton. He's also co-owner of the Pro Football Network, and I have another guitarist, Mark Frazier, joining us. So should be a great show.
Busy
nice.
show.
Nice.
Yeah, I heard
Very
about that fruitcake guy.
Let me
Believe everything you hear.
Oh yeah.
How you like that?
That's perfect.
Nice. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah.
Be safe if you're
Yep.
going trick or treating, trunk or treating, whatever your area is letting you do with your
I'm almost out the
children.
door. Got my
Be very
pillowcase ready.
safe. Be very careful.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
If you're around other people,
Please say that, please.
got to be mindful in these crazy times still. Yeah.
There's some video clips of Guar trick or treating.
Oh my
Check
god.
them out. They're on YouTube. Funny as hell.
Wow.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Nice. I want to thank all you guys. Brendan, nice to see you, sir.
You as well.
Sandra, the one and only you
says,
rock.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, look at
Steve and our arpeggio.
Arpeggio says, Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
He says, do a Ted Nugent segment, Cat Scratch Fever.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Nice. Very nice.
Oh, very nice.
Cool.
Love the pets.
All right, folks. I hope
Can I go
everybody has a great night. Thank you so much for watching. Come back next week and we'll hang out again. Lot of rock stories, a lot of memorabilia to show. Not sure what band we're going to do yet, but sure it'll be fun.
Yep. Tune in to find out.
Yeah. So everybody, we appreciate you being here. Have a great week. And we will see you down the road.